Rise up, the Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. The crew is back, and now it's time to rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. Rise up, rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. The crew is back, and now it's time to rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. Rise up.
And welcome back to the D's on Fire podcast. 3 episodes in 1 week. What a week this has been. And obviously I'm in good mood because Duquesne has handled VCU pretty well all game. There were some stretches where VCU dug in and ate into the lead, but I think 9 points has basically been the closest they've gotten to after we got to a 20-6 lead to start this game. Yeah, what a game, and obviously highlighted from anybody who watched by Jimmy Tre Clark.
He was electric in this game. We're going to talk about him a lot in this podcast. I'll just start, since you brought him up, we should lead off with him. I have in my notes how he was ever benched, or not benched, but how he ever is not starting. Like that just can't happen anymore. He's clearly, or he's probably, you could argue between Reese, Day, and him as the best player on this team. I think they all have a legitimate argument.
Yeah, and that tells you how deep this team is, because any of those 3 players would be our best player. Even back with, I think, Sincere Carey and Mike Hughes.
Yeah.
Marcus Weathers maybe has like a say, but I don't know. These 3 all seem like they're better pure basketball players than those guys. And I did not think that we'd have anywhere near that. I thought that core of players to me was so special because of how great they were in comparison to the other teams that I've watched. But these guys are just heading away better. Like, it's crazy. And I didn't see any shots of the student section, but the student section had to be good at this game considering the promo. I don't know if you saw, they were giving away 3 Duquesne customized beats to students at this game. So it had to have been.
I did hear something about a promo, but I must have zoned out while they were talking.
Yeah,
that is one hell of a promo.
Yeah, that was one where I wish I was a student and I would have.
I was about to say that never happened while we were students.
No.
I got a Duquesne scarf. Were you there at that game, at the soccer game? Yeah. So it's somewhere in the room I'm recording in, actually. So
right. We'll bring it out for a pod sometime.
Yeah, I will. Next time. You guys are gonna have to wait.
Yeah. And we just got Duquesne beanies earlier this year at a giveaway for one of the women's basketball games, actually. So yeah,
solid.
They've definitely upped their game when it comes to promos, apparently. But yeah, I'm gonna be scouting eBay and Facebook Marketplace now to see how much they're like selling those for, because hey, I could use a pair. I'm not gonna lie. I saw them. They look really nice. Really nice.
I got a new pair of AirPods for Christmas, but I'm not opposed to going to the beat side of things, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I feel like I could, mark them off as I need them for the podcast, because the Duquesne, it just works.
It's a write-off. In Schitt's Creek, you just write it off.
Right.
Just write it off. Where are you writing off? I don't know. Just write it off.
And we don't have to pay for it.
That's how taxes work, right?
Yeah. Just write it off.
As I'm saying with it, as I'm saying with an accounting degree from Duquesne.
Yeah, you know how this works.
Yeah, just write it off, people.
So Tre Clark, Day also came out on fire, which was great to see. I was scouring Twitter in the first half. I didn't get to scour it in the second half, but VCU fans were complaining about how they always have like low percentage threes made against them. Those aren't low percentage threes when Day-Day's taking them. Those are his shots that he takes.
Those are Day-Day shots. Those are good shots for him.
That's why those are the shots that he takes, and he shoots about 50% from 3. So
which he did in this game, 4 of 8.
yeah.
He was 4 of 15 from the field, so all 4 of his makes were from 3. But hey, we had Jimmy Tre Clark to take care of the rest. So
Yeah. Well, and RJ Gunn had a few threes to add to the mix too, especially around that elbow arc of the three, where I enjoy shooting them as well. So I understand why RJ is so hot from there. It's a great spot to be. Um, yeah, and Day Day's assist, which I just saw on the replay as they're going through the post game highlights, that assist to I think it was Joe Reese, where he like went around a guy
a
as he
no
was
look.
driving. Yeah, towards the end.
Yeah,
Oh,
great. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and I just saw the alley oop that you mentioned that I missed.
Yes.
So yeah, alley. They had missed. There was a few that they like were trying for alley oops, and the bigs just weren't on the same page.
Yeah, I remember Tevin
Roach.
Brewer in the first half. He threw what was a brick, but it was a pass to Joe Reese, and he's like, "Yo, I threw that to you. Like, go up and get it." And Reese wasn't on the same page with him.
He did one to Rotroff as well, but he was under the basket and like throwing it up for Rotroff, and
Mm-hmm.
Rotroff had no idea, and it just went right to the stands. So, yeah, I mean
It's fine.
it's fine. They're trying to have fun, and in a game like this, you can. Turnover wise, surprisingly, we had more turnovers in the first half than the second half, even though we played
I
better in the
believe
first half.
I believe I think I saw 9 turnovers in the first half.
I think it was 10. It was 9 or 10 in the first half, and we ended with
I think
14.
so. Okay, so yeah, I did see 9 on ESPN, but the graphic on the broadcast said 10.
Yeah.
So either way, that means we only had 1 turnover in the second half, which is great.
Wait, what are you talking?
I'm seeing
I'm
a final turnover of 11 per ESPN
and
box
the
score.
graphic on Duquesne's showing 14. So
Okay,
there's
so
some discrepancy.
either way, it was like less than 5 in the second
Yeah,
half when there
second
was
half was
basically double digits in the first half.
against a team that is known for pressing and focusing on turnovers as like their strategy. So that's great to see. VCU did start making threes in the second half, but our strategy in the first half defensively was essentially pack the paint, don't let them get easy looks, and force them to make threes, which, aside from Ace Baldwin, who Tre Clark just shadowed basically the entire game that he was out there. Um, and what a fantastic job he did. Cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah. He had 5 steals in this game, Tre Clark. So, and if he didn't have to go out early in the first half with foul trouble, I mean, who knows how many more points or steals he could have had.
Yeah, and I'm sure you knew this after watching the broadcast, if you had the audio on. This is his former team, just like Trey Williams went up against
Yeah.
his former team and went off.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's we just need to find what is Miami of Ohio. We gotta somehow add them to the conference so we can play them before
Right.
this year's out. Just to
Right.
see just to see Day Day go off. Man, that would be like a 30, 40 point night. Um, so yeah, it was great. Um, from the bigs, I don't know. It was an average game, I'd say. Like we talked about it before we started recording. Johns on VCU had the ability to move offensively like he was a three, and
Yeah.
he,
He blew by quite a few of our bigs, and it wasn't just one person in particular.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't just Trey Williams as I was worried about while watching the game. Like, oh, Alec is going to eat into Trey because I've been talking
I
up
did
his
see that one
defense.
blow by. I think we know which one we're
Yeah,
talking about. Yeah.
yeah, and I was hyping
In
it
the
up his
first half.
defense two podcasts ago, and
Now,
this
it
is
wasn't
the
just
first.
him.
No,
Rotroff got beat. Reese got beat.
everybody got beat by him.
Everyone got beat. Everyone got some, as they say.
Yeah, and he could make threes too. So once again, I'm convinced he's a three that's just playing a five because VCU doesn't have like
He was he
bigs.
was the
Leading,
Jimmy Tre Clark version of our team, where Jimmy was just beating people like they weren't even there with his first
yeah,
step. Like, that's how quick his first step was.
Yeah, and in the first half, I did think about this. They had out of their 8 points, two of them were like just full on sprints from outside the three, where like it was
Yeah.
just them running, and it was their pure athleticism for VCU. That seemed like their entire offense, and they only had I think one assist in the first half, which just
Yep.
showed like
Yep.
I mean they had a bad offensive scoring half, but also their offensive style was just try to go at the basket.
I think we should talk about it later. This is the perfect game, I think, for something I wanted to raise about this or in this podcast. But in the first half, we showed like there are glimpses of a good defensive team in this team.
Yeah.
And then I believe 22 points in the first half, right? For VCU.
Yeah, and most of those came in the last
I
few
think it was
minutes.
37-22 was the halftime score.
Yeah.
70 points overall. So that, I mean, that's not a good second half, basically, is what I'm saying. So first half, we can keep it together. We need to put it a full game, full defensive game together. But there's there's glimpses of a good defensive team for the Dukes.
Yeah, and I mean we've talked about it many times. Athleticism is there. They have that athletic potential to defend really well. The the skill is really there. Like we have shot blockers down low, we have guys who are good at stealing and have active hands. Like that's there. It's just the mental aspect is not always there, the focus. And that's what kills you. Hustle also came into question again with Dayton today in that first half. They may not have contested the threes as well as like Dayton does,
Mm-hmm.
but they focused on the boards in that half, and it showed. They
Yeah.
were dominant on rebounding in that first half. Second half, I didn't see the final numbers, but it felt more even. So even we should have still won the rebounding battle by a decent amount, but I don't think that lead grew in the second half. Kind of felt like it was almost 50-50.
So I have the final. Anytime you want a final number, I have the ESPN box score. I guess there's a slight discrepancy with the turnovers we found out, but either way, it's ESPN, so pretty good source. Uh, Total rebounds for the Dukes 36, 32 for VCU. So yeah, but 23 or yeah. And we were tied in offensive rebounds actually, which is that's a little shocking. It felt like we played better on the offensive glass, but either way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we gave a lot up in a short span. Like I feel like there was times where VCU got two or three offensive rebounds, just kind of batting the ball up in the air on like consecutive shots almost. Just kind of one possession, they got a few. I did want to mention something else that's not necessarily game related. There were quite a few Steelers safeties that were sitting courtside this game. You had Terrell Edmonds, Trey Norwood, and I don't think Minka was there, but there was a third Steelers defensive back. I think it might have been Cameron Sutton.
Are they
Uh,
VCU guys?
no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
Trey,
Just love ball.
they love Duquesne.
All right.
Supporting local school. Trey Norwood does actually have a connection with Duquesne. I think it was his cousin is on the football team, but he might actually be a second cousin to a basketball player. I'll have to look back because I know that was a story from last year. But yeah, I think he likes following Duquesne, and I think he might have grabbed some teammates to come watch. And what a great game to watch! Um, if to try and get some Duquesne fans. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of any other aspects outside of like the scope of the game that I can add. But I think those are the main two: the Beats headphones and the Steelers showing up. To
I have one that's not. It's related to a person that was on the court, but it's not basketball related.
I'll take
Uh,
it.
so what was his name? Sarver, number 35 on VCU.
Yeah. Oh,
He he doesn't. He plays basketball. Like
he did.
he looks like a homeless dude who like sells drugs like
Yeah,
off the streets. I
yeah.
can't I don't know. He didn't look athletic at all. He
No,
looked
and he
out of shape.
didn't look good in this game either. And they put him out there for a decent amount of minutes.
He had
which
a
I
lot
was
of minutes.
surprised by.
He did make a three in the second half, I remember.
Yeah, but
But other than that, yeah.
yeah, and like any big that was he was
Shriver
trying.
Shriver's his name, not
All
Sarver.
right,
So Shriver.
but any guy that he was trying to cover, I feel like could have gotten by him easily. Um, I saw him the first time I saw him, it was in the huddle of a timeout after we went up big. I was
Yeah,
like, oh, that's a guy that like must be related to a coach or something. He's never going to get in.
right.
He played a decent amount in this game.
No, he played big minutes. Yeah, that was just a non-basketball note I had. Kind of weird.
They really must not have much size. Like, but it's crazy that VCU can't recruit like big men that he's on the team. Like, I don't know. I don't understand. There's there's got to be something there that we don't know about.
But another note that I wrote down. So we talked a little bit last week about shortening the rotation. Um, and Dambrot did do that. Dixon didn't come in this game. He opted for Bari and Rotroff as kind of the backup fives. Um, I don't hate it. I had the thought in the middle of the game. I'm like, I've obviously talked about how much I like Dixon. Um, Dixon and Bari are pretty similar players. They're
Yeah,
both of their strengths are on the defensive end. Really, the biggest difference is just Dixon's more versatile, more athletic. Guarding he's more switchable, where Bari's more of a traditional center. But I don't really hate. It's kind of a toss up which one you want to give minutes to. I don't really hate Bari getting the minutes tonight. And who knows, maybe Dixon gets all the minutes next time just to see,
yeah. See how each of them
yeah,
respond.
how they compare when they get more minutes as opposed to just 3 to 5 minutes a game.
Yeah, I will say Ronsky not getting any minutes, but McGriff getting a decent amount. Um, I mean, I know McGriff has more of a potential on the wing. Ronsky definitely seems like he'll fit in more as a stretch four option than a three, from the minutes he's played. But I don't know. McGriff just hasn't like he's shown flashes that he can be good, but not consistently enough where I want to see him on the floor right now.
I think really it's just to give we're so our deepest positions obviously the front court, back court. We have Rozier basically that we feel really good about, and then that's and then you kind of rotate between Brewer. Like you have two out of the three good guards. We have Brewer, Clark, and Day. You can give one of them a rest with Rozier, but McGriff kind of needs to be that second guy. It seems like to give one of the other two a rest while Rozier's on the floor.
Yeah, and I think it was necessity that caused this, but that was an interesting lineup with
In the
Rozier
first half, yeah,
and
that
Devin.
that 100% was because McGriff didn't play a lot in the second half.
Yeah, well, no, I was talking about the strange combo where we went small ball with our guards of Rozier and Tevin
Oh,
being on the floor at the
yeah,
same
yeah, yeah.
time, and then they actually tried that out a little bit in the second half too, and I mean, it didn't go poorly. I don't know
I
if you
I
want to,
wouldn't try that a
right? I
lot,
don't know if
but
you want to do it in a larger sample, but um, I mean, they managed, so that is a good emergency option, I guess, if there is foul trouble. But yeah, we have learned that I guess our guards aren't as deep as our bigs necessarily.
and I had this thought. So you said last week you like Rozier in a lineup over Brewer. Obviously, Brewer had a really good game tonight. He was 3 of 6 from the field, 2 of 2 from three, 4 assists. He had three turnovers, but like you said, that's kind of like not being on the same page with um, some of the other guys. So that's kind of uncharacteristic of him. Um, what I don't know. Did you change your mind after one game or backtrack a little bit? Rozier Rozier played really well defensively. I thought in the first game it was very noticeable.
Yeah.
Um, I like Rozier a lot, but I think Brewer just it felt like he not only shot well and passed well, like he was controlling the offense and taking what the defense gave him.
Yeah, I feel like both of those guys I can't believe I'm saying this, but Rozier is and Brewer is like a perfect mentorship program.
Right.
It really is. And I think I think in the closing minutes of the games, Rozier is still typically out there. But they haven't been necessarily close games, so I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
I still like Rozier out there and balancing out the scores as much as possible.
Yeah.
But obviously, with how the games go, it's just going to be a mix of everybody. So I guess it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter who the starters are. I understand you feel a strong significance to that, but I mean
I mean, it does matter a little bit.
Trey Williams started. RJ Gunn played more minutes. Would you rather be RJ Gunn today or Trey Williams when it came to playing time?
Do you think RJ Gunn definitely played more minutes?
I think so.
I don't know. I'd be curious. I think it's closer than you think.
Right. I mean, I know Trey played
And we won't find
first.
out, folks, tonight because
No.
ESPN sucks with the minutes update. So we're trying the best we can. But
Yeah, and I'm not going to be able to dive into the post game press conference notes for this one either.
I
Like I
kind of
love to
like
do.
talking immediately after a game, and it's just one game we have to talk about as opposed to like two. It's just so raw and obviously so fresh in our minds. So I don't know. I kind of enjoy this.
Yeah. I will say I like listening to the post game press conference after we talk and finding out that Dan Brott says very similar things to what we say, and it's like, oh, we do know ball. This is great.
We know ball.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is good for sure. But yeah, bro, I don't know. Brewer, he was one of the threes he made was coming off a pick handoff, and he juked the defender out. He looked like he was going to go around the pick. He didn't.
Yeah.
Totally juked him out of his shoes. Made a three. Had a great pass, I think, to Rotroff in the first half, like over the top. Really tough pass to make from like close to half court. So I don't know. He was just showing like a little bit of everything. It felt like he had a control of the offense, just overall.
Yeah, and he had a nice handoff exchange with Day Day where VCU stupidly went under, but then Day Day came up short on the three.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I said, I think it was like after the first game or first few games, you cannot go under the screens against us. That's just a recipe for disaster.
No, no.
And now the new scouting report that we've got after 2 games of RJ Gunn, the that elbow arc three, if he's there, you cannot let him have any room because he will take the shot and he will make it more often than not.
Yeah, gunshot, 5 of 8 from the field, 3 of 5 from three, so with 13 points in this game, 5 rebounds. He played well. This was his best game. He's still coming back from injury, obviously, but um, yeah, he showed what he can do as a stretch four. And like we were already a good 3-point shooting team before he came in. So now adding him to the mix is just amazing.
Yeah. And it sucks that we don't have a second game against Dayton because I really would like to see us match up. Like I am
This was a
convinced.
good VCU is a good defensive team. Like this is a good win. This isn't like Rhode Island's was 4-8. I think when we played them, they're not a great A10 team. This is a probably the upper half A10 team opponent, and and we were beating them down completely in the first half. So
Let me tell you, Alec, A10 Twitter was a buzz and loving the fact that they could trash VCU. There were
yeah,
tweets letting them know that Brooklyn hotels are cheaper on Wednesdays, alluding to the fact that they'd have to play in the first round of games of the bottom four teams. There
right.
was there was talks of one of a notorious VCU fan being like just irate watching this game at a bar somewhere by herself.
Yeah.
Um, it was a wonderful time to be on Twitter, but I think VCU is kind of a middle of the pack program this year. Offensively, they just don't have as much as they have had in past years. They Johns went off, and Ace Baldwin's usually there, but relying on those two guys for an entire conference schedule is going to be tough. And I feel like that is basically their offense at this point.
Yeah. Offensively, they're definitely limited, but we knew that they were going to be a good defensive team, and Dayton obviously kept us in check. the other good defensive team that we played, and scoring 79 points on a team that's ranked 45th in adjusted defense per KenPom, like that's a good sign.
Yeah. 3 point, according to VCU fans on Twitter in pregame talks,
Mm-hmm.
they said that they're an average 3 point defensive team. So that's the one area where I want to see, is it just Dayton having a great game against us, or was it a bad shooting night that we played against Dayton? Like, what was it? Was it great defense? Was it
I
a bad
mean,
shooting night? Was it both? Like that, our shooting going like below 20% from three is just something that's gonna haunt me because this team is so damn good that I can't imagine that being a thing.
so Dayton, I pulled it up just now. Dayton is ranked fifth per KenPom in 3 point defensive 3 point percentage at
Wow.
26%. So that's one of their strengths.
I
Now
understand.
there's a little bit of luck built in that with any 3 point percentage numbers on defense, but fifth is that's obviously like literally elite number.
Yeah. So our our 3 games that we played in conference. First one, everybody overreacted, saying we were severely overrated
Yeah.
because we played the number one, likely the number one team in our conference, and
Yep.
it's looking like a strong walk that they're going to be that team.
Yeah.
Then we play Rhode Island, who's considered one of the worst teams, and we look great, and they're like, all right, maybe they're like middle of the pack. Now we
Right.
play a middle of the pack team. I don't know. I think top 4 or 5, like Zach gave us,
Yeah.
is the right spot. Um, I'd like us to be higher, but I think that's probably accurate. Now, would I be shocked if we were 3 or maybe even 2, and we were just that big of a difference between Dayton and the rest of the conference? At this point, I don't think I'd be that shocked. Um, the other teams up there would be Davidson, who's good, but they have a new coach. St. Louis, who we've always played well against, and I'm really looking forward to that matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then UMass, who looked rough against St. Bonaventure at home, so they might not be as good as I thought they were coming into the conference play. So overall, my expectations are a little higher now than they were heading into conference. Really,
Yeah. I was this game was important to me personally on how to feel about this team. So um definitely boosted confidence off of this game. Anything like specifically that stuck out to you in the game, coming back to the game a little bit?
um, we've talked a lot about it. Rozier and Brewer both played really well from the point guard position. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the I feel like all the bigs offensively didn't do as much against a team that's considered smaller. Um, but it was
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we shot so you shoot so well from outside. I mean, you don't you don't need to rely on that many points from the bigs. So that's kind of the trade off there. Um, yeah,
I,
Rotroff looked good in his minutes, which I feel like I'm always hot and cold, or he's either great or bad. I feel like there's not many games where he's just average.
he was fun. Like he did like he knows his role. I think we all know what his role is. Comes in, he can finish like 1 or 2 buckets, like easy buckets basically, but he's there for rebounding. Like that's what he's there to do. He's number one in offensive rebounding for a reason. So he has to get minutes. And I talked about it earlier between Bari and Dixon. So I was curious, because Bari had a great defensive first half. He had 2 back-to-back blocks.
Yep.
Um, I was like, huh, I know Dixon.
Right in this spot right here, just
Yeah.
to give people a picture.
Um, I know that Dixon was the leader on this team in blocks. I was like, I wonder what their block percentage is like compared to each other. They're exactly tied going into this game at 9.2% block percentage. So like I said, it's a toss up. So that's why I'm not really mad about. There's nothing to be mad at. They're both good players. But Bari, I wish he could finish. He had a wide open dunk that he should have finished in the first half. Like, and
Yeah,
that's not the first
they
time
called
that
him
he's missed wide open dunks.
Well, they called a foul on that one, unless there was another one.
That's a wide open dunk. He's too big.
I agree.
He should finish through that contact.
And I will say he was not the only big that struggled finishing through contact on a dunk.
This is a Bari specific thing that
I
I'm
understand.
About. Don't help him out, okay? He's done this consistently. And he's raw. He's very raw, is what I'm saying. And if he could finish plays like that, like that's how you earn more minutes. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right,
because I really like him.
An important note that I was reminded by: VCU got caught goaltending. We did not. So that's true. That's an anomaly.
Rotroff has stopped doing that stupid shit from few game early in this season in the non-conference play.
Yeah. So I don't know. We talked about it a few games ago, where if it's a blowout, there's not as much you talk about, because it's just like, yeah, it was a good game.
Well, I think the big takeaway is the first half we showed that we can be a solid, fundamental, good defensive team, especially early in the game. We were rotating on time. Like, people from the weak side were rotating when they needed to. And then the second half, like, we gave up 48 points as opposed to 22 in the first half. Like, that's happened before. I don't know. Like, I have some numbers to back up how this team could be better on defense, because some of the fundamental numbers show that we can be a good defensive team. So this is all per Ken Palm. We're 83rd in block percentage in the country. So top third. That's a good number out of like 360 teams. That's a good number. 77th in steal percentage. Very good number. We're about average in effective field goal percentage and 152nd in the country. So that's not, your average, but I've bemoaned this every week. 331st in defensive rebounding percentage. And 273rd in opponent 3-point percentage, which feeds off of the rebounding numbers, because if you don't get the rebound, a lot of those offensive rebounds, they lead to wide open 3-pointers. So that leads directly into that number, basically. So defensive rebounding, like, if this team was just average at defensive rebounding, we would probably be an above average defense.
Do you think our rebounding has improved since non-conference play?
Not really. I think we've been, the numbers have been even in the games. Like, we average, I think, around 11 given up offensive rebounds per game, like, to the opponent. In this game, VCU got 13, which is 11 is like that's a horrific. It ranks, I don't remember what it ranks exactly, but it's in the 300s nationally.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're there. It makes sense that
So I don't know. I think our games kind of end up that way for some reason. Not really sure why. But yeah, like, I don't know. This team they have the fundamentals of being a good defensive team. If they just rebounded the ball better, I think they could be really good.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the issues tonight in the second half were in part because we had the lead.
It's not the first time it's happened, but yeah.
Yeah, and Dan Brought's mentioned where he thinks that's kind of a sign of a not mentally tough team, where you are playing differently with that lead. So I'm sure that's going to be something that they drill in a little more before this weekend. Yeah, I think that's basically it from my notes from this game, which were not many, because, as you know, can't really take notes while I'm watching a game live.
I think the only other thing we should talk about is how great Tre Clark was in this game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we started
I'll rattle off the numbers real quick. 26 points, 10 to 17 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3, perfect from the line. He went 4-4, 5 steals, 6 rebounds. I think he looked, oh no, okay, he was second leading rebounder on the team. But I mean, that second half, and that was at a point where VCU was kind of coming back into the game, they were making it like a 12-point game, 11-point game, 9-point game. And then Tre Clark just stepped on their throat and took over, especially getting to the rim like whenever he wanted.
Yeah, I mean, we can't say enough about Trey Clark's game today. I mean, he dominated defensively outside of what the numbers say. He dominated defensively with what the
Yes.
numbers say.
Yes.
He dominated offensively from three. He dominated offensively going to the hole. He dominated offensively passing the ball and rebounding. Like he played as complete a game as I think I've seen a Duquesne player play this year.
And the off the backboard self alley oop.
And
I mean,
he's a highlight reel machine.
he really is. He obviously had the buzzer beater early against, I totally forget what team that was at this
Ball
point.
State.
Ball State. Step back threes he makes. He's made other awesome dunks. I think
Ankle
put back
breakers.
dunk. Yeah.
He's done it all.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he's officially my favorite player on the Dukes. Above Day, above Joe Reese, above Dixon from early on in the season.
Yeah, and for looking ahead, just to like preview this weekend, I don't know anything about Richmond this year. They were very veteran heavy last year, so I haven't watched them play. And I didn't follow
Wait,
Richmond.
you haven't watched any Richmond ball? Do you even know ball?
Listen,
You
man.
don't even know ball.
Listen, I was focused on
hell?
the team across the street, VCU. That's the team I
How do
focused
you
on.
expect to do a Duquesne podcast if you don't watch all of Richmond basketball, all of VCU? But no, I'm kidding. I have no idea about them either. I just try and look at the stats to see what kind of team they are.
But I do want to lead this off. I feel pretty confident in my prediction that the Duquesne women's team will win their 2 games in between this pod and next week's pod, in part because they're currently 10-4, and Duquesne men's is now 12-4 after winning 2 straight, and the women's have just followed every single time with the record. So
you hear that, gambling people?
12-4 Duquesne Dukes.
Sounds like a trend to follow. I don't know.
But also Duquesne's playing Dayton, and as good as Dayton men's team is, Dayton women's team is horrendous this year.
Right.
So that should be a good win. And then they play, I think it was George Mason, this weekend, and they're a mediocre team. So Duquesne should have 2 more wins for the women's side after this weekend's matchup. Yeah, and then on the guys' side, while I don't know Richmond very well, just based off of how Duquesne's been playing, I feel good. I feel good about this weekend for both teams.
I'm trying to see what is Richmond's overall record here. 8-7. Okay. They are 1-1 in the A10. But yeah, I jotted down a few notes just to like give everyone an idea of what type of team they are.
And it is an away game, so that's worth noting.
Yes.
Since we've had so few.
Let me pull up some of the things I wrote down. Okay, so they are a horrible offensive rebounding team. So I just talk extensively every week about defensive rebounding because I just don't get it. How can this team be so good offensive rebounding and so poor defensive rounding? Like that part, I don't know enough about ball for someone to like make that make sense to me.
Alec, I'll give it to you right now. Lack of focus.
Listen,
lack of
everyone
focus.
listen, Frost knows ball, not me. So.
Lack of focus. They aren't blocking out. They aren't focused on blocking out. They're just trying to be athletic. And on offensive rebounding, that's fine because you're not the ones that necessarily are focused on positioning. You're just focusing on getting the basketball. Defensively, your goal is to put a butt on somebody and make sure they can't try to out-jump you. That is your job.
This is the angriest you'll ever hear Frost sound.
It's just it is so mind-boggling that there's just so like Dambrot is heavy on fundamental big play, and yet the most you'd think the most obvious component of that is defensive rebounding.
No, I know. It drives me nuts too. So anyway, my point is we shouldn't be killed on the defensive glass in this game. Per Ken Palm, Richmond ranks 328th in offensive rebounding percentage. So they don't get offensive rebounds. So that's good in favor of the Dukes. They're decent at defending the three. They're 87th in opponent 3-point percentage. It wasn't not a huge number, but they don't have a lot of eye popping numbers. They're kind of average in a lot
Well,
of places, and I'm trying to pick out some of the weak and good spots that this team has.
I mean, the one noteworthy thing that I know about them, because the coaching staff is still the same, is they run the Princeton offense, and that has given us fits in the past. But I mean, we have a completely new team this year, and I think we faced one or two teams that ran the Princeton offense in non-conference schedule. So that's at least a good tune-up where they've faced it before. So Richmond usually gave us fits, but it's because of the seniors that have graduated that gave us all those fits in the past.
What I found interesting was Ken Palm's giving us a 35% chance of winning this game.
Only 35%.
Yeah.
Well,
That was the biggest, that was like the things I already listed, and then this stat were the most eye popping.
that so the net in the RPI predictions for us going into conference play was that
Mhm.
we would be still like ranked 10th in conference. So I'm still curious if that's still like the mindset of these predictive
And
um
we'll see. I
schedules.
guess we'll see what maybe those numbers update after tonight. Obviously, they're not updated numbers. Beating a good VCU team might help with those percentages, but yeah, that I still even before this game that still seemed kind of low to me.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is based off of preseason expectations still, which should not be the case this far into the season, but I feel like that's affecting the predictors still.
I know Ken Palm really emphasizes he tries to take he like tries to make his stats based on the opponent that you're playing. So he he's probably the best at making those stats as close to your opponent as possible, but it's still a surprising number
Yeah.
regardless.
Um, and who knows, maybe there's a huge I mean, it's clearly not always the case, but maybe home road is a big deal for Ken Palm.
Yeah, and the fact that Duquesne hasn't really played a lot on the road might hurt those stats and what he weighs. Um, maybe he puts a heavy weight on that or a higher weight than other people. So
Yeah, so our wins where we're winning by 8 or 9 points at home might only actually be worth like a 2 point win on the road, if that. Um,
right,
so yeah, that might play a role in it too. But I'm excited to continue to surprise all these people. And as Joe Reese put it after the first game, they had us last.
yeah.
They had us last.
Oh wow, whoa! You watch your mouth. There are
Yeah,
kids in your house.
I might censor that. I might actually edit that in post because that's the first time I think I've actually dropped anything like
Your
that.
your mom listens to this. You better
Oh, she
watch
doesn't.
yourself. No, she doesn't. Neither does mine. When I told her I
Emily's
was
does, so we gotta watch out for that.
I told when I told my mom I was doing this, she was like so excited. And then I guarantee you she hasn't listened to a lick of it other
Yep.
than the like little portion she asked me uh to play for her.
Yeah. Um,
um but yeah, and then so I'll say the game after Richmond, we're not going to preview that game, but I will be at that game live. That's at St. Joe's.
so we'll record later that evening. Um,
Yes.
or wait till Thursday. Your call on that. Um, but yeah, that'll be a fun time for you to like actually see these players live because
Yeah.
I
Was it
mean
yeah, what was that did it just like jump off the floor when you were there?
the athleticism really, yeah, like the athleticism and the size of so many of our players because I feel like
That's my favorite thing about basketball is the hot elite basketball like this, Division 1 and NBA.
yeah, I think Duquesne's always had kind of a smaller lineup, especially with guards.
Yeah.
And I mean, outside of our point guard, which when I watched live, neither of them were starting. We had the McGriff
Oh, right.
start, so like they were all huge. It was so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, I'm super excited. Hopefully, and then I can rub in my coworker's face who went to St. Joe's. Hope if they, yeah, they better really win this game because he'll give me a lot of crap in the
Wow,
office.
ESPN is predicting 77.6% Richmond. Yeah, it
I told you. So Ken Palm likes us more than ESPN.
yeah. Um, which is a good sign because Ken Palm's better. So,
Right.
um, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. This I might bet on this game. I might bet Duke's money line if there it sounds like the spread would be like minus, I don't know, 6.5 or something for Richmond. So
yeah, I
this
might
might be a good game
take the points.
to wet my beak in.
Yeah,
Haven't wet my beak in the new year. Had to save all that money for Christmas presents. You know?
right. Yeah, or save them for postseason NFL betting. Your choice.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, and with that, we'll let you guys go for now and talk to you next week with hopefully a few more Duquesne wins under the belt.
Go Dukes.
The Dukes are back and now it's time to rise up. Rise up.